a new micro batch that. So what happened was they found 14 barrels for the Hirsch Horizon. Okay, and that's their regular bourbon brand, the Hirsch Horizon, and those are usually about between 5 and 6 years old. So these here had actually sort of timed out. They were over the age. They were eights. They were actually into
Right.
eights.
So it
And
didn't fit the profile that they initially had for their Horizon label.
right. So what they did instead is they said, okay, we're gonna have this stuff. We got 14 of them. We're gonna give them to some key players around the country. We got to be in that sort of thing. We tried them all, and of course, I can't leave well enough alone. Usually, we just pick a barrel and we move on. But I started blending barrels together.
Exactly.
And barrel number 8 and barrel number 10 together created this fantastic whiskey. And so I said, can we get these? And they're like, yep, you can get them. Can I microbatch them? Yep. And I want to take half an hour and half later. Can I do that? Yep. Very agreeable people. I love that. I love when people.
Right. Of course, they've just sold you double the whiskey, so that helps make it easy for them to deal with it. But typically, when we travel or do projects, we have a handler assigned to us specifically
and
for
this is why,
right? Because it's always something a little bit off of the menu.
Yeah.
And we're happy to say that we've really enjoyed doing a lot of batching projects where you're using essentially the same product, but 2 different barrels or sources of it, and making something that's quite delicious. I hope our audience enjoys it. I know I'm really enjoying it. We have a very special guest with us today. I feel the longer we talk without introducing him,
I know we need to introduce
the more
Ian.
we're ignoring him. But Ian, raise my coffee cup to you. But
Ian Palmer is here today. He's from InchDairnie Distillery out in Fife, correct?
Correct. That's
correct.
us.
And we're going to be going through his up and coming products that he's going to have that he's having here in the United States. So I said, do you want to sit in on the radio show and we'll go through them? And he's like, stupidly said yes.
Yeah.
Well, I frequently make errors of judgment, of which I don't think this is one of them.
You don't?
No?
That would be another error that you just made.
We'll ask again after.
After the show.
I think so. That's my position currently. Whether it's my position at the end, we'll review.
Well, you got some some bourbon in your mug too.
Yeah.
So this is OBR, older, bolder, rarer.
You've named it OBR.
OBR.
So it's Lost Horizon.
Right. So the funny part is that Hirsch was going to, and this is where I used it. Hirsch was going to just push these as Horizon single barrels, and I said, you lost 14 barrels, and you're going to just call it. It's sitting. The name is sitting there.
Right.
It's Lost Horizon.
Right.
And so,
and then if we do some kind of promotional thing, it could be called Event Horizon.
If it goes this show becomes a black hole, sure, it can be the Event Horizon. All right. So we wanted everybody
to kind of point something out while Ian is here. They talk about these things in Scotland, in the United States, in Canada, that they find lost barrels, which is insane to me because if you understand both the tax standard in Scotland or the United States, there's no way somebody doesn't know where these barrels are. They didn't just get rolled into a corner and then somebody forgot.
You want my theory?
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'd like to hear your theory.
No, you go first.
I've said everything I need to say. Right. I'm going to take the headphones off and go home.
Whoa, you're obstinate today.
No.
You're not going to be petulant too, are you?
No.
All right. No, I think what happened is, like, as they're getting barrels and they're picking to do the blends, that they do like sort of the X formation. They're taking barrels from here. They're taking barrels from here.
Yeah.
And to make the blend up, I just keep thinking they in between the X's they forgot to pull some barrels, and they just ended up sitting there.
Well, yeah, and a few years from their typical bandwidth is not without reason.
Right.
But there's always a marketing kind of thing that's been brought to the public.
Yes.
That they've discovered some.
Yes.
Oh, when the
Lost
old
in the
caretaker
undercarriage.
passed away.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's somebody who's looking at that number, especially at £1 per liter per year in Scotland or whatever the tax rate is, that's going like, that is an expensive thing sitting somewhere. We've got to find that. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking in the United States with the recent glut or boom of bourbon. There's a lot more inventory, and it is taxed very differently than, for example, the Scottish standard.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm always, every time I hear it's a mysterious lost
Look
barrel
what we
that,
found in the backyard.
right, you
Um,
know,
Behind the
we
shed
discovered that we we had a whole rick house with
that we didn't even know.
10,000
We didn't even know
barrels that
about
we
it.
didn't know about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
No, I think it's close enough within the wheelhouse anyways. You know, they're
Yeah.
going 5-6 years. This is 8 and 5 months or something like that.
Right.
So I mean, it's not crazy, but they're looking at it. We only have 14 of these. Why just put them into the horizon when they're actually they're worth more money and they're really good barrels. They were all really good barrels.
And Horizon's their regular release, right?
Right.
So this gives you an opportunity to
Right.
sell some sucker 2 barrels
Yes.
if you let them mix them together. So I think that's exactly right.
Listen, I also got other things.
All right.
Here's what I got. You want to hear it?
Yes.
What we're basically doing with this project is this project's going to be available for the rest of the year.
Right.
So what you're trying now, we've basically made a micro batch. We took half of it in. They're holding the other half.
Right.
So as we get rid of this one, when we're ready, we can take the next one. My goal is basically have this now through OND, October, November, December. Now, if it sells out before, that's great too. But my sort of my theory behind this is to actually come up with sort of our own lineup of Hirsch that would be available on the shelf all year for the rest of the year.
Just a slow drip.
Yeah, but
into
it
the
doesn't have
IV.
to be like, everything doesn't have to be a fast boom, 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 gone.
Well,
This is something that you could keep coming back. Okay, you guys tried it, right? The audience tried it. What do you think?
this is number 8, right?
The-
Where is this on the tasting mat for the people? Who
Oh,
just
number
came?
8. Yeah, number 8 on your tasting mat.
Is the Hirsch OBR.
OBR. It's a micro
Old
batch. Smallest batch you
belligerent-
can get.
Yeah.
2 barrels.
Okay, so the other kind of thing that I just really wanted to touch
Well,
on
the
before
point is
we
that
get in
you
there.
just interrupted me. They liked it.
Yeah,
We established that. Is that what you're
Yes.
going to say? Okay,
Okay.
good. There's plenty of this around right now.
you're talking about not doing a fast release, blast it out there.
Mhm.
But quite frankly, the industry is set up both from the supplier, Hirsch or whoever,
Right.
the wholesaler, distributor, and the retail operation to try and clear the barrel as quickly as possible, right?
That is correct.
You get the barrel, the wholesaler doesn't want it sitting in their warehouse. They try and dump it on you. You got to get your money back out for what you spent on the barrel, so you're trying to do it. But what you've done or managed to do is like either
Screw up the
work with
entire
the
system.
wholesaler
Yeah.
or the brand,
Yeah.
so that they give a slow release instead of what they'd ideally like to do is in Q1 or whatever this was purchased in, put both barrels in and then get their money out and then worry about what they're doing for Q2, 3, and 4. You've just delayed it to Q3.
Yes.
Okay.
I just delay. I like to delay things. I'm
Yeah.
a delayer. I'm a procrastinator
Yes.
that wants everything immediately.
Well, as we continue to procrastinate, we're edging up on the commercial break. So
That's
why
right.
don't we take a quick break from our radio audience, continuing on Facebook Live. And you are listening to It's the Liquor Talking here on WCRN, AM 830 on your dial. And we hope that you come back and join us on the other side of these commercials, but please stay tuned if you're watching us on the live feed.
Absolutely.
And Ian,
And Ian's
will
going to
be
take over the rest of the
talking
show.
A lot more
Yeah.
than we will.
Yeah. We're going to basically give him
goodness.
the show. Thank
Yes.
God. As you can see, we need help.
I'd just like to make a
Oh.
very important point.
Just let the music play out.
Okay.
We're waiting for the music to end. That's what you guys can. All right, here we go.
I've been making whiskey for 47 years, and I have never lost a cask in
Right.
all 47 years.
Obviously, Ian, you have not been trying hard enough.
So-
Yeah, I mean, you're right. From the tax point of view, you found a cask. I know an entire government department who is fired up, ready to roll the moment you say that.
Well, I think
Well-
I think what it happens though is it does get lost in what you're to defend them slightly, especially even in over in Europe and in Scotland in particular, is they're paying the money on it. They just don't realize where and what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every time that you delay, it goes up. So here's just my kind of anecdotal note on that. I was doing a tasting thing at a distillery in the Speyside area, and they wanted to roll a barrel out of their warehouse into essentially out of bond, as we would call it, and then people could taste from
Just
it.
in case we need it.
And at the point that they rolled it across
to
the
Ian.
10-foot
I'll take
alley
it. I'll
between
take
where
it.
it was warehoused into the tasting room at the distillery, they had to pay the tax burden
Yes.
at that.
Yes.
And for that particular barrel, which I wouldn't say was that aged, 10, 12 years,
Yeah.
you were looking at the equivalent of $30,000 in taxes just to taste your own product
Yeah.
at your own distillery by employees of the company. So I've always been fascinated with just it's one of the reasons why people ask me, why is Scotch expensive? There are a variety of reasons, including the quality, but also the massive tax burden that happens when they're doing it. So I don't know if that number has changed. This is a ways back, but it's like pretty significant to just even look at.
Yeah, it's very significant, and that's why many of these sorts of things happen within the bonded area, so that you actually don't shell it out money to do that type of thing. But I think,
but what can you get away with in the bonded area, though, right? You can take samples, but I'm sure you're limited by the amount of liters that you can take out, right?
yeah, it's not set down in a hard set of numbers, but it has to be reasonable.
Yeah. If I take 53 gallons of samples out, let's say, just for my good friends to make sure that the barrel's okay now, which is now empty.
Yeah.
I mean, that may be.
Yes, I mean, that's a good example.
Right.
I mean, is it reasonable to take half the contents as a sample? No, that's not reasonable.
It's not reasonable. Right.
But there's no hard and rule numbers. But if you keep doing that every Thursday afternoon, somebody's going to go, yeah.
Things that make you go.
Well, and back in the day, on site, literally in a house that was sometimes bigger than the distillery managers, was what was called a gauger, or the tax person that was overseeing the whole operation, because that's how important the revenue that was being generated was almost more important than the product itself.
Yes.
For whatever. So you couldn't get away with it back in the day, but now it's computerized or forms and things like that.
It is. I mean, each distillery had its own officer.
Yeah.
10 seconds. We're going to come back. Let's come back. Let's do just a little bit of housekeeping, and then I just want to start off with Ian. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to It's the Liquor Talking right here on WCRN AM 830. And we are broadcasting from Julio's Liquors on Route 9 in Westboro. Go to juliosliquors.com for all the important information. I should say there's a lot of cool stuff going on today. We have Ian here. He's going to be here for the rest of the radio show. At 12 o'clock, we have the Woody Wagon, basically. It's from Bullet. That's going to be out in the parking lot. Our good friends at Fireflies are going to be here at 12:30 with the Woody Wagon. And they're actually going to be handing out pork sliders and some food. So it's going to be sort of a really fun afternoon. And speaking of Fireflies, this coming Wednesday, 6 to 9, April 30th, go to fireflies.com or their website to get it. There's a whiskey dinner featuring Penelope Bourbon going to be there, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's all set up. I think there's probably I don't even think there's 10 spots left. So, but if you want to go, it's gonna be a blast. This is the second to last dinner that we're gonna do at Fireflies for the season. The season's wrapping up. We're gonna do one more, I think, on May 20th, and that's gonna be a pig roast outside. So that's gonna be we're only gonna be able to fit like 80 people for that one. So keep an eye out for that too. So that's happening.
Driving around and you're here at 12:30.
Yeah, at the tasting starts at 12.
Barbecue.
The barbecue starts at 12:30, and everything goes till 2. So, that's the way it is.
And while we were on break, we had an absolutely fascinating discussion about taxation in Scotland with our special guest Ian. And so I just want to say, if you want to see some of that content, and you're interested in insider kind of industry stuff, go back and look at the Facebook Live posting. But let's introduce Ian and some of the products, because we have a large studio audience and they're getting restless because we've stopped drinking while we're talking.
They only stay as long as we make them
Right.
drink. It's weird. It's like they're almost powered by alcohol.
Fueled.
Fueled.
Sure.
Fueled.
That's good.
All right. So Ian Palmer is the chief cook, bottle washer, does everything at the distillery. There's barely anybody. No, he has a whole team, but he's the guy behind RyeLaw, which is what we've been seeing here in the United States for like what about the past year?
A year, yeah.
Yeah, for the past year. It's a rye whiskey from Fife, from Scotland. Really good. We all fell in love with it. You guys have it on your seat. That's actually in slot 1, the one we've been having. We'll get to that in a second. But we're about due for an expansion.
Yes.
All these new products are about to hit the shores of the Americas.
Yep.
And we're looking very, very forward to it. And before we even get started, though, I have to ask you, I saw this article and I went back to try to look for it. I couldn't find it, but there's a new thing now that the Canadians, our friendly neighbors to the north, are looking to stop everybody using the word rye, okay, rye whiskey. And they're basically going after the EU not to use the term rye. And there's actually a distillery that's sort of like already on the cutting board because they can't use the term rye. Now, my feeling was, one, Brexit, so we don't have to listen anymore. You guys don't have to listen anymore. And rye whiskey, just take the E off or add the E in, whichever the case may be, and you've just changed it. Is there anything that you're hearing about this conundrum with the word rye?
I wouldn't call it a conundrum. I've got other words, but there could be children listening, and we don't want to.
Okay.
We don't want to upset them. Yeah.
Because I get very. Matter of fact, I was very upset for you because I was like, well, wait a minute, why can't rye? Like, listen, most of the Canadians are known for rye whiskey, but what we call Canadian rye whiskey a lot of times isn't rye anymore.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so that's silly, and we have rye here in America, and it's just using the grain. You're only describing what the product that you're using. This isn't a sort of like word that's only tied to one particular place.
Yeah.
And Canada, I think, is going to have a little bit of hard time.
I think there's a couple of things there that I'm not convinced it's the Canadians who started the ball rolling.
Really?
I think it's some people in Europe who have set this ball rolling, which I think is quite disappointing. I've expressed that view on a number of occasions. We describe our...
That makes you really popular. You don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not in a popularity contest when it comes to this type of subject.
I'm a damn whiskey maker, Jim, not a popularity contest winner.
Yeah, we produce a Scottish rye, and it's that simple. Now we're just going to keep calling it a Scottish rye.
Yeah.
And the reason...
No one's confused, by the way.
I'm not confused.
Yeah, I'm not confused. Well, on other things I am, but not this.
Yeah. I think our rye, these are the first two, that samples 1 and 2, really is a rye whiskey. What we have taken is the legal definition of American rye whiskey. To my knowledge, it's the only legal definition in the entire world.
That is true, really. Yeah. Everything else is fast and loose.
Yeah. It is, right? Yes. But I mean, and then you got Scotch whiskey. So we put the definitions together. So here with our rye whiskey, we make it from 53% malted rye, 47% malted barley. Well, there's box number 1 ticked straight away. And
the majority of the grain is rye.
Yeah, the majority of it there, more than 51%. We mash it and ferment it in the Scottish way of doing things. We double pot distill it. It comes off the still at 72, less than 80. Ticks that box.
Another box tick.
Then we do a really weird thing that only you American people dreamed up, is that you reduce it to 62.5%. In Scotland, we will always reduce it to 63.5%. 1% between friends, but never mind. We've reduced ours to 62.5%. And then we do something which is really, really American, extremely rare in Scotland, and we put it into new American oak casks. So please tell me which bit that isn't rye whiskey. So it's rye whiskey, simple. It's made in Scotland. All the grain is grown in Fife in Scotland. So it's grown in Fife. The distillery is in Scotland in Fife, and it's all matured at the distillery in Fife. So it's a Scottish Rye Whisky.
There you go.
That's it.
Not trying to hide anything.
No.
There's no one's trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes here.
No, they're not. And we're very, very transparent. If you've got a question and I don't know the answer, give me your contacts and I'll get somebody else to answer it for you. It's quite easy. But we are trying to make sure that the consumer knows what he's buying. It's a Scottish Rye Whisky. Subject closed.
My question is, though,
Yes,
knowing
yes,
what I
the
do
way
know
with the
about
big boy shirt
Scottish,
on.
the Scottish Whisky Association and the governing bodies, they like to make the definitions, and they don't like people playing with terms like Scottish or Scotch because they believe that it leads to consumers being confused about what the product is. I get 100% what you're saying, but how does that explanation fly in Scotland?
Right. So there is a legally defined types of Scotch whisky, like single malt, single grain, blended malt, blended grain, and blended whisky. Yeah. Those are the legal definitions. Our RyeLaw is a Fife single grain Scotch whisky, but I'm also describing it as a Scottish Rye Whisky.
Right.
Right.
So I've got a foot in both camps, trying to make sure we are communicating to the consumer what is really in the bottle.
Didn't you just, they hate that. You just clarified things.
Right. And some of the bigger concerns that do blending have made legal moves to protect the fact that people are putting too much information on the bottle. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, perhaps you're a world famous blended Scottish whiskey. And so you change your formula or your recipe for what's in the blend. And so you don't want to be held to other people revealing what's in the blended whiskey. So Compass Box and other people have run afoul of this.
Yes.
Okay.
By being transparent.
I'm going to start tasting.
Yep.
This is number one on your
Number
tray.
one is what is available now in the United States.
And this is the RyeLaw.
This is what we have now.
2017 vintage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first one. We bring all our whiskies out as vintages. So this was distilled in 2017, and we tell you the year of distillation and the year of bottling. And this particular one...
And then you have to do the maths yourself.
Yes, we like that. So this actually is a 5-year-old, just to help you out. So,
damn, I forgot to carry the 2.
Yeah. So it's a 5-year-old. It's 53% malted rye, 47% malted barley, and all matured in American oak casks. Now, to be absolutely specific, the oak that was used to build those casks came from the Ozarks. And we, just to give it a go, just to try it out, see what. So we have set out, each vintage will use a different type of American oak.
Okay.
And we take it from different forests. Will there be a difference? We don't know. If you don't ask the question, you'll never find the answer.
Right.
So
that's fair.
So that's what we've done in there. So that's the first one that we brought out.
I do like the fact that you've done malted rye. I don't think enough people do malted rye. And matter of fact, probably the most famous malted rye of the new era that started the craft distilling movement was Old Putero, which is 100% malted rye, and it gives a very different flavor, distinct flavor profile.
Yes.
Than unmalted rye, and it shows up here too.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted this rye not to be another American rye. We wanted this to be a Scottish rye, and we wanted it to speak of Scotland. Now, when you think about Scotland, the grain is malted.
Right. No, I agree with you.
And that was one driver. The other driver was we didn't want the rye to be the whole story. We didn't want it to be one-dimensional. We wanted it to be multi-dimensional. So by malting the rye, you actually tone down some of the rye influence. By having 53% rye, you've got a big lump of malted barley. So you've got the malted barley flavors sitting alongside the malted rye flavors, and then you got number 3, which is the oak flavors. We didn't want it just to be the one in the middle. We wanted it to be spread out and to kind of bring in a kind of much wider flavor profile.
Yeah. Delightful floral notes. When we drink rye in the United States, both the mandatory char and also the intensity of the rye tends to almost be one-dimensional.
Yes.
And you're seeing these layers of
Mm.
kind of floral, almost a gentler approach to the sippability or the flavor and aroma profiles.
We did a rye called Beautiful Barley, which was 49% malted, 51%
Mhm.
rye.
Right.
It wasn't
Rye,
malted rye,
right.
but it was rye.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Do you guys like this? Audience is saying, are you confused? Okay,
The
not
2017
no confusion except for the gentleman up front. that says that's the
RyeLaw
problem.
vintage Scottish Rye Whiskey. I think we're going to have to take another
have to take a
commercial break. We will be continuing on the Facebook Live presentation. More on that, including additional questions for Ian. So please stay tuned. We'll return back on the other side of these messages.
Thanks, Ian. All right, what I think we're going to do is I want to just continue the thing because we'll do it as the podcast part of it, and if people want to come back and listen to
Sure.
that part of it, we can. We will take a break at the well, if we want to do it now, we can do it now, which may not be a bad idea, and we'll just play the rest of it through. Everybody else got here. You guys can try this. So coming up on May 7th, am I right on that?
Is that Whiskey Wednesday?
That's a Whiskey Wednesday. We're going to do the Ultima del Jaguar tequila, and we actually picked a new barrel. You guys are going to get to try the barrel first today before anybody else, and we're going to be doing this on Wednesday along with the other great products that they produce. But I figured it'd be sort of fun in between to break things up, and I gave you a tequila that's been aged in French oak.
French oak.
Wednesday, May 7th. All right. So this is coming up, but you guys are going to be the first ones to actually try this. And it is an añejo. So just try it. I just want to see what you guys think. Le Tigre is going to be the name of it, which is French for
You're gonna get out your old
tiger.
polo shirt with the
Yes, I am. How did you know?
and listen to the band.
I'm going to listen to the band. I
Yeah.
love the band. They were just in Boston not too long ago. I don't know if you guys are like
All
into
right.
that, but
That
Try
is
that.
quite tasty.
What do you guys think?
It's interesting.
I think it's really, really good, and it's very different. I love the French oak character that's going on in this. It's got that little floral note to it, and it's definitely fruity. What's that? A little spicy on the end. I like this one. When we tried it, we were just like, man, this is really good. And we're gonna basically get about 20 cases of this. So what they were really good, they set it up. We could do basically like a half a
Case,
barrel.
typically 6-pack, right?
Yeah,
So,
be 6-pack. So this is one of the products that we're going to be trying on May 7th. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff on that one. And enjoy this. What'd you think, Ian?
You can definitely tell it's French oak and not American oak.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
that jumps through straight away.
a little bit
doubt.
more attitude.
I think
It's a little bit, it's a
That's
little bit
a little
snobby.
snarky.
Yeah.
A little snarky.
Yeah.
you know,
A little snarky. All right.
So, we didn't mean to put you in the middle of it.
me in the middle.
No, he's from the UK. Anything that's done in French, you'd rather probably not deal with.
I quite like the French. I just like poking them from time to
Yeah,
time.
well, that's the whole point, isn't it? It's all in good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's not what the French say, but it's all in good fun. All right. Oh, you found the article for me? Thank you very much, because I was looking for that. I couldn't find it. Yeah, only somebody now is deemed that they can only call it rye. Yeah. Here we come. We're coming up. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to It's the Liquor Talking right here on WCRN AM 830. And we are joined, Randall and I are joined today by Ian Palmer, who is the guy behind InchDairnie Distillery. Am I saying that correctly?
You're very good. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
You're very good.
It's the only time I've ever said it right. All right. But more importantly, and what you're going to be known for is sort of like the first product in the United States was this RyeLaw, which is a great Scottish rye whiskey. And we just tried the one that is available now. It's actually on our shelves right now. You went up and signed them all too.
I did. Yeah.
So they're all signed on the shelf if you want a signed bottle. That's what's here. But now we're going to move on to things that aren't the things that are to be. They're not here yet. You guys are some of the first people on his 2-week trip that he's going around trying these things. So you're a very small group of people that are getting to try these a little bit early.
I'm looking out at the animals in the audience. They were also the first people to try it because I see most of these glasses out.
They're gone already. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, in slot number two, what's the second one we're looking at, Ian?
Yeah. So the second one, which is the RyeLaw release for this year, again, we bring it out as a vintage. This was distilled in 2018.
Okay.
But what we've done is that this is actually now a 6-year-old. So it's a year older than the one you had before. It's also good to kind of compare the two of them.
Did you guys leave any in your glass so you can compare and contrast?
Yes.
They're laughing at me now.
Perhaps I should have mentioned that earlier. But
yeah, I always forget to. Don't worry about it.
So it is a year older. But what we've also done is this is not in Ozark oak at all. This is in Appalachian oak. Now, when we did this, we thought, it's a great idea. Give it a go, see what would happen. And without really expecting any kind of significant difference between them, because American oak is just American oak, isn't it? Well, that, I think, was always the perceived view.
Right.
And I'm not very sure if, when you compare these two, whether that perceived view actually holds water now. Because there is a difference between the two of them. And I do not believe that the additional year has had that impact, because it's, in my opinion, it's had the reverse. But it would be interesting to hear what everybody else has got to say. But the mash bill is identical. 53, that's our fixed, that's our formula for RyeLaw. 53% malted rye, 47% malted barley, but distilled in 2018. The rye itself is always from one harvest. So it was distilled in 18, which meant that it was harvested in 17. Yep. And the same with the previous one, it was the year before. So it is clear batches. And that's where we believe that we can use the word vintage. We have a wee problem with the TTB. They're wonderful people. We love them dearly.
They are?
They are, indeed. Okay. Yes, they do. But they don't like spirits having the word vintage on the label. So we're having to make a special label for America.
We are special.
You are so special, people. So we're not going to put vintage on the label, because they believe that vintage is closely associated with wine.
You can put distilled and then the year.
Correct. And that's what we're doing just for America, because you are such wonderful, special people to us.
He said that, like, I don't know if he means it. I mean, well, I'm not getting involved in that one. John's making some good comments over there, but I can't repeat them.
For our intrepid viewers and listeners who are not able to taste this, there is an interesting kind of little spice kick that I have not seen, not related to the grain, because it's going to be very similar to the first one, but almost like, I can't, it's not your typical rye pepper note, but it has a little bit of almost heat on the palate. So very different and very interesting, even though you're claiming it's roughly from the same geographic area in American oak, yet you're finding it completely different. The prep of the barrel was the same?
Absolutely, char number 3. So exactly the same. So what we believe, and you've raised the point that actually most people have commented on, it's almost slightly more rye flavored than the previous one.
Right.
But it's been sitting in the cask for a year longer.
Right.
That's back to front.
Yes, exactly.
It is back to front. So therefore, we believe that what's happened is that the oak is different. So how would that be? And I am putting forward a suggestion. I've got no evidence behind this. In France, they talk a lot about the type of grain of the oak. You've got tight grain and you've got wide grain. I would suggest that the 2017 Ozark was wide grain. So there was a lot of tannin, so you got a lot of wood. Potentially, and I'm going to put so many caveats on that because I haven't got any evidence, but while I feel from the flavor profile that perhaps that was tight grain. So there was less tannin in the wood, so you got less wood flavor. So that's why you've got slightly less wood, despite the fact it's got a year longer, and why you've got the spice coming through, whether that is the spice from the rye or is it spice that will come through from the wood. Particularly French oak will give you a spiciness, but this was not French oak at all. So there is that difference, which is We're still working our way through exactly why we've got that difference, but we're pleased it's different. I think that some people do like that little slightly more spice to it. It's perhaps closer to the American palate.
I like that you're sort of taking us on a journey here too. Like, there are some differences between the two. If you like the old one, hey, we have it upstairs, grab it now. If you like the new one, it's coming. So, but here's another thing that I don't think everybody or maybe they do, I don't know, but I'm just going to say it anyways, is that as a distiller, your job is to make the distillation taste as close and as consistent all the time.
Yes.
So that is your biggest job. So even though you're going from year to year to year, the distillate coming off the stills is very, very close.
It is.
And the one thing that can sort of change that is obviously one is wood, and two is like weather, like it's hot, cold, whatever. But in Scotland, that's less of an issue because you're a little bit more consistent.
Correct.
Than you would be like in Kentucky or somewhere in the United States.
Yes.
So you have a consistent weather pattern, and you have a temperature, and you have a consistent distillation process.
Yes.
So really, the X factor would be that wood.
Yes, and the wood.
I'm only bolstering your theory.
Yes, I'm so pleased that brown envelope made its way the right direction. So what we've got, you're right. When we're producing the new distillate, consistency, and consistency. So that gives us a solid base to build on. The only subtle difference, and we don't believe we've seen that, is that it is a single harvest. So has it made any difference? Has the rye variety changed? Has that made a difference? So far, we've not seen that. So what we're saying here is between these two vintages, it's what we call the third M. We built everything around the M's, materials, method, and maturation. Play with them and you change the flavor profile. Well, the materials have stayed the same. The method has stayed the same, but the maturation has changed. So in terms of globally, it's the third M that's made the difference between the two of them. Now we've gone, well, what element of the third M has made that particular difference? And we're kind of working our way back. And it's a theory at this stage that it could potentially just be tight grain and open grain.
Do you go back, like, since you're doing vintage, and I can use the term and the TTB can't come after me. Do you, when you go back and you taste the new make off the still, are you tasting a difference in the new make from vintage to vintage, or is it staying pretty steady?
At the moment, it's staying steady.
Okay. That's important.
It's important, but one thing that we're not in control of is the variety of rye and the variety of barley. That's out with we have got dedicated farms, but if they cannot source the seed, then they have to change from one variety to that. Now, that's something that we plan for.
Yeah.
And we try it out and we test it out. But that's the advantage of doing it by vintages. If there is a difference, we'll tell you and why it's different.
There's a question from the studio audience.
Single farm on the bottle. The farm is saying that the farm, it's not a different farm. The farm is staying the same.
The farm stays the same, but we're in terms of distilling rye, there's no such thing as distilling rye in Europe, none whatsoever. There is rye. And the problem you've got is, and it's what I call apple economics. The people who develop the seed, that seed I sold you 5 years ago was absolutely brilliant. It was tremendous. However, this year, I've got a seed that's even better. And you're going to have to buy that because I'm not making the one that you really like anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's usually all on production of alcohol too, right?
It is. It's driven by alcohol, but because there's no such thing as distilling rye, it's actually farm yield is what so we represent 2/5 of not a lot. Right.
Right. Most of the rye in Europe, in Scotland, is produced for farming, not for distilling.
Correct.
It's for food stuff.
Correct.
Not for distilling.
Correct. It's not. So we have to take what we're given, but we just want to have a heads up. So potentially, we've eliminated as many of the variables as possible. We've actually deliberately introduced a variable, which is the different oak, which is up that end. But at this end here, we're not really in control over the variety. And do varieties make a difference? I'll come back and let you know.
Yep, we're still working
All
on
right.
that one.
Let's get into the third sample. Again,
Now this is not RyeLaw anymore.
No,
this is
not
Kinglassy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Double matured 8-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. Oh, you conformist you. You had to make a malted a single malt Scotch, didn't you?
We had to make a single malt because we were always had that in the plan where it's all working our way up into there. But what we wanted to try and do is to demonstrate that from one distillery.
All right. Well, we're gonna continue that into the break.
Find out why we have such a cliffhanger here with Ian Palmer and the delicious products here on It's the Liquor Talking. You might know a little bit more if you're in the studio audience, and you can continue to watch us on Facebook Live, but please join us back after this break. We'll be right back after these messages.
All right. We're going to continue.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, we're going to continue. Okay. We're going to continue on. We're going to keep going.
We're into 3, and instantly you get a different taste and nose on this, indicating it's a different product. Visually, it looks different in the canister and the bottle. But I just wanted to ask one kind of geek question or nerd question that I have. All the barrels are the same size from the same cooperage?
All of the new barrels for the RyeLaw are from the same cooperage here in America. Yes.
American standard, or are they made to the hogshead?
No, we don't do hogsheads. It's the it's the 200-liter cask.
Right.
Yes, they do. Yes, yeah. Again, that's a variable that we've managed out.
And my other question is that you're going to use mash tun kind of production technology for even the malted rye. So in the United States and in a lot of the Canadian distillation, they're going to use a grain in, which I think has a profound effect by the husk and other bits and matter in it. But I think that that's one of the reasons you're getting the delicate flavor. But I was just verifying it's mash tun and then into the still instead of.
I'll be really geeky with my answer. Good. No, it's not a mash tun.
Okay.
But it is a filtered mash.
Okay.
So we use a mash filter. So we hammer mill the grains. We don't roller mill the grains. Now you think, well, so what's the difference? Well, the particle size is a lot smaller, and we don't have to keep the husk intact. Right. So we then mix the milled grain with hot water in a separate vessel, a mash conversion vessel, where the starch is converted into sugar. So now we've got this really sweet liquor, but it's also made from 53% rye. So if you've got a hole in the road and it always annoys you when you drive out of your drive and you want to fix it, just get some rye, mix it with hot water, and just fill it in, and it'll just go like concrete. You know, it really is thick. It's difficult.
Pain in the ass.
It's a problem in distillation.
Yeah. So what we then do is we then filter it mechanically in a filter, almost like a filter press. But what we ferment, which I think is your key point, we ferment a filtered wort. So the husk, although it's even small particles, has been filtered out. And in my view, that makes a really big difference between what we do in Scotland and what happens in America. The in-grains fermentation and the in-grains distillation is a significant differentiator between what we do here. And that's why we're saying it speaks of Scotland, because it's made the Scottish way, not the American way.
Right.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Now, we would not be able to distill it in the pot stills if it was in grains fermentation. It would just simply foul up. It would not.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we are now into and away from the rye, into the
double matured 8-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey, Kinglassy.
And instantly on the nose and on the palate, peat.
Yes. Yeah. So what we've got here is a malted is a malt Scotch whiskey. It's a 100% malted barley, but it's peated malt, and we have produced it in the usual way, again through our mash filter. So we hammer mill the malt grain, and we then convert it, we filter it, we ferment it, and then we double pot distill it, and then we put this one, the first 5 years in ex-bourbon casks.
Okay.
And then we disgorged the casks, not all of them, and then put the whiskey into Amontillado casks. Now, these were built for us in Spain, in the town of Montilla, new American oak casks, and that have been seasoned for 13 months with Amontillado from the town of Montilla.
Cool.
That's it.
I like it.
They've sold that product, and then you get the barrels after they've done all the work
Yes.
to prepare it for you.
What we do is we will take a big down payment on the new cask. They then take it to the bodega.
All right,
Okay.
we're coming
I think
back,
we're
and we're
coming
just gonna
back, right?
we'll finish. We'll talk about
Just a
how
minute.
this tastes, and then we'll start with the last one that we have here tonight or today. I don't even know what time it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to It's the Liquor Talking right here on WCRN AM 830. During the break, we continued on and we started tasting the new King Glassy double matured 8-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. We've actually just tried it, and we're actually going to give everybody sort of like opinions what they thought. What are you thinking, Randall?
I'm loving it.
I was like a waiter at a restaurant. I waited until he had his mouth full before I asked.
Fife
Peated?
as a region area, the breadbasket of Scotland, rolling hills, just beautiful countryside. This gentle kind of approach with a little bit of a surprising kind of kiss of that peated version, which is atypical, I think, to what you would call the regionality of it. Just delightful and delicate, as have all of them have been, which as delicate is not a term I typically use with rye, but your rye malts were fantastic too. I'm enjoying this a lot.
And what I like about this too is that you've used mainland peat.
Yes.
So it's primarily,
It's East Coast peat.
peat, which isn't more that, it's not really that iodine-y, medicinal type peat. It's got more of that forest and heathers and
Floral
stuff
note,
like floral notes.
Yeah, it's got more smoke, so it's quite a smoky as opposed to as you say the iodine, the TCP, the kind of phenolic flavor.
Right.
Yes, there is phenols, but the mix of phenols are more in the direction of smoke. And what we wanted to do there is to create something, again, that is a bit like the rye. We didn't want the peat to be the whole story. We wanted other things to bring in, and that's why we actually then brought in the Amontillado as the final maturation on it.
The peat, as I like to say, is supposed to be the salt, not the steak.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Correct.
it's there to sort of pump it up. And the Amontillado finish is really
it's just
it's beautiful. It goes really
just a
nice.
kiss of that sweetness and some of that delicious.
What does the
quality,
audience
a little
think?
bit richer.
Yes, no.
Thumbs up.
I don't like peat and never will type people, or no, they like it. You win. They like it.
And anybody who doesn't like peat and is tasting this and is surprised by it, I think you can get some very one-dimensional peated whiskeys that are powerhouses.
Yes.
And this just shows a different approach. So
it's elegant and full of depth.
We like complexity.
alien to me.
We don't like it to be one-dimensional. We're all about complexity and breadth of flavor. And this is something that if you were not a raging peat head, of which there are millions of them out there, this is something that would offer up to somebody who wants to approach the product, easier. And also, if somebody likes their sherry casks, well, and they like a little bit of peat, well, here's one glass that's got both of them.
Right.
And that's quite nice in there.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So,
all right. So we get the last one we're going to do on this afternoon is the Glen Glassy raw 8-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. So what's the difference between this one now?
Well, the difference is what we didn't do as opposed to what we did.
That's where the raw comes in.
Yes, exactly. So what we've done here is, remember I said with the double matured that we put it in 5 years in an ex-bourbon cask. And then we moved it into the Amontillado. When we decided to go and do that, we kind of stopped for a moment and said, let's just do something different. So we parked some casks to one side, We didn't forget about them. We knew about them, and we know exactly where they are. So we're not killing
They
the
weren't
story.
lost.
They
They
weren't
were
lost.
not
They're not
lost.
the lost.
They're not lost.
They're not lost.
So we put them to one side and left them to mature in the ex-bourbon cask. And so what we've done here is that we've now bottled them alongside the double matured. So this is why we've called it the raw, because it is the raw material for the double matured. Now we've allocated to America, because when I said that we parked to one side some casks, that's exactly right. There are only 200 cases for America. For this
You're lucky
year.
you're getting some at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Americans.
what's interesting is the bottle is opaque,
Yes.
but the liquid is exceptionally light. And is that a decision because you think that people are going to think that it's less flavorful or unaged, or is that to protect the delicate color from ultraviolet?
Some of that is right. Okay.
I'm just guessing. I have no idea what I'm.
Some of you decide which part of that is
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
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 So what
You've given the answer, but you get to decide which one you can listen
yes,
to.
yeah. So what we're saying is that you're right. It is pale. Now let's go back to a fundamental of all our whiskies. The difference between what came out of the cask and what's in the bottle and in your glass is the water we've added to reduce the strength. We add nothing. We don't add caramel color. We take nothing away. We don't chill filter it. This is the honest color. This
Right.
is not artificial.
And by the
color.
way, this proves the point that the color has nothing to do exponentially with the flavor. This is very flavorful.
Yes, but I think a lot of people, and this is something that I do strongly believe in. You actually taste it with your eyes first.
Mhm.
So when you've seen it, you've kind of made your mind up.
Right.
And for you then to change that view, it's got a lot of work to do.
Right.
And you're right that if people are looking at this and they look at that color, they say exactly what you have just said. And I think they're missing a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
And because this is not a light color, this is a light in color, but it's not light in flavor.
No, it's
Far
certainly
from
not.
it.
You know what I love about this too is, and really for me, sort of unexpected, since you're using ex-bourbon barrels to store this in,
Yes.
is the citrus, the lemon. Does anybody get like a really good like lemon flavor that's going on there? A citrus flavor in
Got a
this?
brightness to it.
Yeah, it's a brightness, but it almost goes into like that Meyer lemon category to me.
That is the new spirit flavors that you're getting, because the amount of maturation flavors is a lot less than the maturation flavors in the other one, because the other one is new American oak and it's got the Amontillado. So the maturation flavors are a significant part of the story. Here, the significant part of the story is not the M's, the last M, it's the actual new make spirit. So you're experiencing something that is
More distillate driven.
distillate driven. This talks of the distillery much clearer because there's less other, the maturation elements.
There's nothing to get in the way.
Yeah.
There's not additional
it's
noise
raw.
of the finish to distract you from what the actual character flavors are.
Yes.
And this is probably why it's such a limited release, because you're going to want to have this in your collection if you're loving the flavor of this, but it isn't something that categorically most people are going to understand, or that you're going to be able to do the regimen to make sure that you showcase that flavor. I'm sure there'll be additional releases.
There will be,
of raw.
yes, there will. But one of the things that we do at InchDairnie is complexity of flavor and breadth of flavor. This is a bit narrower and is a bit more driven by the peated new make flavor coming into there. So is that a typical InchDairnie? Probably not. But we're very good at listening to people who speak nicely to us, so that if there is a lot of
You hear that, Randall?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nicely.
Nicely. Yes.
What I like about it is I do like the getting the distillate character, and sometimes we lose track of that sort of aspect of it.
Yes.
With finishes, with a lot of other things that are going on, and I think sometimes it's good to bring that back. And this is definitely one that you're going to have, especially you're only doing the peated varieties once a year anyways.
Correct. Yes.
So they're always going to be limited runs.
They are. Yeah. I mean, it's exactly the same as the RyeLaw. We set out in a rolling 5-year plan when we're going to make it, and it's only a few weeks that we actually are producing this in. And it's generally speaking in the winter, the Kinglassy is a winter distillate. And that's how we choose to do that. We have clear, defined decision. And it's also all from Fife grain and from that was harvested the year before. We keep in the same logic of the vintages, the distillate years into there. And it's adding complexity. But this one, we thought, give it a go. Let's see what happens.
All right. So now the question that everybody has on their minds, because we're trying this, and I think everybody sort of like this from the feeling I'm getting from the studio audience is, when are these going to be here?
So this will be coming here towards the end of the month, and end of May.
End of May.
Yes.
It's going to be May.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
it's
all right. So we're just around the corner.
Yes.
We'll be getting these
If you're
in.
really
Limited
enjoying this, you
amount?
Yes, to begin with.
Well, I mean, I know the other one's only 200 cases. I get
Yes,
that. Part.
but that's a slightly different. So in fact, when I return to Scotland on Monday morning, I have to get myself tidied up and sorted out, because then on Tuesday we have the official launch of the Kinglassy brand is on Tuesday.
That's
so
awesome.
So you're almost a week ahead of the game here.
There we go.
Seeing this.
That's what we like.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, and I want to thank you so much for coming in today.
Us on the show
If you missed any of this, go to It's the Liquor Talking, wherever you get your podcast. Cousin Vinny will get those up really fast, or you come back here to Facebook Live, and you can watch in between the commercial breaks, in between that little time, we still kept going. So you may have missed something. It's a good way to catch up. Randall, you want to take us out of here?
Thanks to our listeners, to our studio audience for participating, and to Ian Palmer for his fantastic lineup of Kinglassy and RyeLaw. Please
keep
look
sending
forward
stuff
to seeing you in the future.
Yes,
So
thank you. Thank you.
It's the Liquor Talking, and we'll be back next week with more on the radio.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm hanging up right now. It won't click. Hold on.